Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, hi, and welcome back to the DCL Podcast. This is Christy. You'll notice I'm not Lake, but fortunately, I am not alone, and I am here with, where's the drum roll? The godfather of the podcast. Welcome back, Steve.
Thanks for bringing me back on, Christy. I really appreciate it. This is a podcast I'm really excited to talk about because it's a ship that I really want to sail on and one of my favorite people in the Disney community.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite people in the Disney community as well. Although he always gives me a little bit of, he doesn't let anything slide, which not my favorite feature. So Joe, welcome to the show.
You're too nice from the Midwest. I got to keep you honest. It's so funny that you say I don't let anything slide because the first thing I planned to say before you said that was, are we not cruising smarter today? Because I'm on this episode.
I just realized that when I started to say, I'm not used to being the host. I even practiced.
I told you to make Steve do it, but you know what? Props to you for doing it. And thank you so much for having me back on. I really appreciate it.
So much sass. Joe from Disney Deciphered and As the Joe Flies on Instagram. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, great to be back. It's been a while. Yeah, Steve, I really appreciate you coming on. It means a lot to hear you on this podcast again. I do miss you a little bit, although Lake is doing an amazing job. But Steve, what has honored me the most is that you got a haircut for this recording, even though we're just on audio.
I like to try and press Christy's buttons. I was walking by like a barbershop like 10 minutes before this started, and I was like, I'll try and make it if I can. I'm stopping in for a haircut. So, but she didn't even see it.
The best part of it is I didn't even see it. I was busy. I had to lawyer for a minute, and then I had to make my dinner really quick and ate it while Joe was on the podcast here.
And I will say
it's a hot mess tonight.
I will say Lake is awesome because he is like way smarter than I am. I love all the questions he brings and his points of view. So he is killing it. I love it.
This poor man also is going to have to edit this mess that we're going to call a podcast tonight. So props to you.
It's going to be a mess. All right. Really quick though, Steve, what have you been up to?
Pretty much my whole life is taking care of running around doing swim stuff with our youngest now. He just finished up the state championships this past weekend for his club swim team, and I am now a swim official. So I spent 4 days in the pool, and it is nice not hearing it is as exciting as it was and seeing all the stuff, and the kids have just an amazing time. It's nice not being in a pool and hearing all the noise and smelling the chlorine. So I'm excited to talk about water, but that which entails cruise ships.
Right. And not chlorine, not
Exactly.
Indoors, outdoor water.
Outdoor water.
So with that, let's talk about your cruise, Joe. Where did you go and who did you sail with?
I was super excited. It took me 2 years to get on the Wish. And then now I've done the Wish and the Treasure within a calendar year of each other, which has provided a nice comparison for me. In my mind, I sailed to Eastern Caribbean on the Treasure out of Port Canaveral just a couple of weeks ago over President's Week. It was my family of 5. So myself, my wife, we have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. The outer 2 are girls and the middle one is a boy. We also sailed with our friends who, there's 2 of them with 2 kids. Their kids are 7 and 5, girl and a boy as well. So it was the 9 of us sailing together. Yeah, it's my first 7-nighter that was in Alaska. This is my 7th cruise overall, but my first 7-nighter. I still feel like 5 nights is my sweet spot, but I can see why for so many years that Eastern Western fantasy was so popular. And I think that that's going to be the treasure for the next 5 years because it was an amazing cruise.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So what kind of room did you book for your family?
So we booked 2 4Bs, Christy. Actually, there were 4 Cs. No, it was a deluxe family ocean view with veranda. We booked 2 of them, probably did not need to. Last year on the Magic, we did 2 of the just regular deluxe ocean view with verandas, and that was fine. I think we had a little too much space this time. I wanted to get on the bump out though, and I booked this super, super early, like kind of early bird gets a worm type situation. So we had 2 of those. Our friends had deluxe ocean view. We were all on deck 7. We were like deck 7 midship. Like having the 2 cabins, I guess I wasted it this time because I feel like our kids are getting older and we're going to need the 2 bathrooms. Probably could have gone away with it this time, but oh well, opened up the balcony, had a lot of fun out there, just relaxing. And so I've yet to stay in an ocean view or inside. So too bougie, I guess.
Baller with your deluxe family ocean view. That's a veranda. That's a pretty big cabin. So good job.
That much room between the 5 of you. That's awesome.
I will say that I was, I listened to the DCL podcast and sorry, Christy, but I can never cut you any slack. But I always hear in my head that Christy says that the staterooms are so much smaller. So I was like, maybe we need this extra. Well, it was what? Like 56 square feet total between the two rooms as opposed to getting two regular. I guess the other reason why I booked the deluxe family is because I've been in the deluxe ocean view with veranda, not the family version. And I was curious, like, how they do the storage. How's the spacing work? Obviously, I can tour rooms as well, but why not try it out for myself? We had plenty of storage. I think I realized that one thing that I was worried about, just getting one room for all of us, was like, where are we going to have enough storage? But we could have fit all the stuff. It's really clever how they have the space along the Murphy bed. And so,
well, the Murphy bed shelves are key. And without that, I don't know what people would do.
And that does not exist. Not that we could book a regular deluxe ocean view with veranda as a family of five. Like, we don't fit in those. It has to be four. Right. But I was thinking, like, those families of four without that space, because we had one of our staterooms had the Murphy bed, but the other stateroom didn't have the Murphy bed. And there's so much storage in one of those rooms. So if you're a family of four that packs heavy, get one of those rooms, pay a little bit extra. It's like $300-$400 extra, depending on the length of sailing. You know, when we're talking about Treasure and the Wish and the Destiny soon.
With the Murphy bed, you have those 6 or 8 shelves or something on the side in a little closet. Are you saying without the Murphy bed, there's more storage in addition to that shelf?
Yes. I took a video of it for you, Christy, for eventually I'll put it up on Disney Deciphered when I get around to it. The whole entire Murphy bed size, that's all shelves.
Stop it.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we each had one side of that, and we didn't even fill it up because we pack light. We're a carry-on only family.
We're not going to talk about you getting in the ship. You get to the ship. Fine. You get on. What was your first impression of boarding the beautiful Disney Treasure?
I'm going to talk about it a little bit, Christy, just because I am the opposite of everyone and I always have to preach this. I showed up to the port at 1:50 p.m. Loved it. It was great.
Steve is team late boarding. It's nice to not have any people are waiting.
I messaged you at 12:45. I was like, it was like 12:30. I was like, we're leaving the pool now, Christy. I just wanted to let you know. I'm not going to lie. I was like a little bit nervous while I was driving. I was like, I hope there isn't an accident or anything like that.
You had time.
Yeah, it was fine. Because we were boarding so late, there is, the earlier you board, I feel like the longer the procession is and the more fanfare you get when you get in. We are a pretty low-key family, so we didn't really care. We told them our name. We walked in. I was blown away. I tried to avoid pictures. I knew that it was like a dark green scheme, the coloring and stuff like that. But I hadn't even seen the statue in the Grand Hall is Aladdin Jasmine on magic carpet. I really hadn't even seen that. So when I walked in, I was really impressed. Obviously not as impressed as when I walked in the Disney Wish because I've seen the Wish now. And so I know what the hall looks like, but it's like Disney Wish Grand Hall with a better trim. I really liked the Aladdin and Jasmine statue. The whole thing was awesome. And there was a lot of energy, of course, when we walked in. Beautiful, beautiful ship.
I love Team Late as well because you miss a lot of the chaos. And if you really want to go to Cabanas and everything like that, you don't want to do the sit down. By the time you get to Cabanas, it's like wide open because everybody's kind of gone through. You're behind that crowd, which is awesome. My question to you, Joe, is, the Treasures Grand Hall looks amazing. Is it as dark as it looked, or is it as light as it looked as you walk in?
It is really bright. Christy was shaking her head as you were asking that, Steve. I think something about the color scheme, like when you're taking pictures, it doesn't come out how bright it is. I never once thought that like this feels like dim. It just felt like grand and majestic, really bright. The chandelier gives a lot of light. The one thing that I found that, I don't know if you noticed this, Christy, but this doesn't really provide light, but this is a good place to put it in. When they take pictures in the Grand Hall, they have flashes that are set up on the 4th deck, actually. So you're on the 3rd deck taking pictures. They flash you from the 4th deck.
Stop it.
And if people are standing in the wrong place, their shadows get in your picture. So I learned this because the photographers were like, hey, you guys need to not stand here because your shadow's going to be in their picture. I thought that was a really clever thing. This has nothing to do with how beautiful the Grand Hall is, but I thought that was a really clever way of getting the lighting on the pictures good. So as long as no one is standing in the wrong place and getting their shadow, that's why the pictures, when you take the pictures with cruise photographers in the Grand Hall, that's why the light is so good. You're Pearl now, Christy, so you get them for free. So you definitely should take them.
I know. And we did not take one picture in the Grand Hall. We were going to later in the cruise and something happened. I don't know what, but we just never It didn't materialize.
Well, I'm glad to know that that's the guest shadows and not Peter Pan's shadow, because I thought maybe that Wendy had lost it for some reason. And so
That's the magic shot. That's the magic shot. Believe it or not, this is the first time we've gotten the photo package before. This is my 7th cruise. Most of my family's 6th. My wife's 5th. This is the first time that I've actually like waited in line for the cruise photos in the Grand Hall. Partially it's because I bought the photo package. I was talking to Christy about this. She's like, you can return it. So great tip, Christy, by the way. You can return the photo package if you want. But I was like, no, let's try to get some Christmas pictures out of this. So we took so many pictures in front of the backgrounds in the Grand Hall that they set up and stuff like that I've never done before. Usually I just go straight to dinner. So we were like getting down there early. And then one thing that is really great about the Treasure, maybe this happens on all the ships, but I don't think it happens on the shorter sailings. They would have a captain's reception and they would have like free alcohol in the Grand Hall and stuff like that, which I haven't done before. And so we'd wait in line for these pictures. So we took a ton of pictures, a ton more cruise photos than we normally do. So that was great. Of course, because we are a carry-on only family, we were like in various levels of formality for our dress. And our kids were always wearing Crocs, no matter how nicely they were dressed, but it worked out well.
All of those things are fine.
To be honest, it was a bit of a mess, but I'm glad we have those pictures now. So next time you go, and I mean, they do this on every cruise. I think one nice thing about a 7-night cruise is you have much more time to like figure out your rhythm and figure out what you enjoy, figure out what you like doing. And eventually the kids got sick of it, so we stopped doing it. But one night they had like lightsabers out, like you could do pictures in front of a Star Wars backdrop, and then they'd give you lightsabers, and then they would like pose you. I was like fighting my 7-year-old, and then my 9 and 12-year-old were fighting each other. Those things are cute, and the kids really enjoyed taking those pictures. Some of the other ones, like they're like, why do we want to take a picture in front of an up background? And I was like, just do it for your dad, okay?
I love the fact that they've added those lightsabers. That is super cool. And the officers' reception is usually day 2 on the longer cruises. So make sure you don't miss that. They have all the officers that are out before dinner, each one of the dinners, plenty of drinks. Make sure you get 1 or 2 before you go into your dinner if you would like one.
And they have non-alcoholic drinks as well if people need that. And so, yeah, no, that's a really nice event. We've been to several of those together, Steve. It's really nice to just hang out. And then you can obviously talk to the officers as well. One of our listeners, Brian, is always talking to the officers and finding out all kinds of fun information by making friends. So
can we go back just a little bit? So before the cruise, Joe, you got a big family of 3 kids and everything like that. Did you guys book anything ahead of time? Was it hard? Because I was just trying to pull up to actually look at the family veranda, and pretty much everything is sold out going into the spring here right now. So did you guys book anything ahead of time? Was it hard to, if you did?
Yeah, the Treasure is really popular right now. I was just looking for a client for like a late August sailing, which usually most people are back in school, and they're a family of 4. There was only maybe a dozen to max 2 dozen. I was only looking in the veranda categories left, and I was pretty surprised, actually. So the Treasure is really popular right now. Of course, its excursions are really popular as well. It really did help out that we were gold on this one, or, I split up my family so that there was at least, my wife isn't gold or was not gold at the time, but at least one of us was gold in each cabin. And so I was able to sign on at what gold is 105 days before the cruise. And I was able to get the Coral World dolphin swim, which I figured was like, I did sign up for the sled dogs in Alaska. It got melted out because it was like too late in the season. I was sad that we didn't get that. Dolphins are cheaper. And I was like, this will be like the one time that we do this. And so that'll be good. So I got that. And then I got a Jost Van Dyke beach day as well. So that was St. Thomas and Tortola in order. Well, we went in the opposite order, but that was those 2. My friends were silver. They were not able to they didn't want to swim with dolphins because, according to my friend's wife, he would drown, even though we were wearing life vests and stuff like that. She's like, they don't do, my kids and my husband don't do well in water. That's what she said. But they were not able to get Jost Van Dyke at the beginning, but they kept checking. And actually, for a lot of these things, I was on the app constantly, even though we got the excursions we wanted. Like I was on the app constantly, so I didn't get Enchei at first. I got that later. I booked and canceled like a bunch of alcohol tastings, which, things kept showing up over time. Yeah, perseverance is the name of the game there because, yeah, my friends didn't get Yoast at the beginning. They got it later. It took me about a week, and I was checking the app maybe every hour, but I got four. Oh yeah, I'm incredibly, like, if I set my mind to it, I bet you I never got a cabana, but I kept checking just for fun to see if I can get it. I probably couldn't have gotten that just because there's too many concierge guests, but took about a week. I got 4 slots in a week, and then after another week, I got another 2 slots. So we were able to get all the Royal Gathering, even though I messed up and went to bed too early that night.
So Royal Gathering, for the listeners, opens up at 30 days before the cruise. It's an opportunity to meet with like 5 princesses, and you stand in line. Basically, it's a ticketed event, but there's no charge. You stand in line and you go from princess to princess, and you get the kids, or whoever gets their, adults can do it too, gets their picture taken. And it's a couple of times or a few times. I guess it's a couple of times over a cruise, right? So how did you divide up who was going to Royal Gathering?
Oh, that was easy because my wife and my 2 older kids, they are like done with the Royal Gatherings. They've done it like 3 or 4 times, and they're like, forget it. So I knew I had to get a max of 6, 2 for myself and my youngest daughter, and then 4 for my friends. So that's how we ended up doing it. One tip I can share, I haven't tried this personally, but my friend who was on the cruise with us, honestly, I don't think they care. Like if you have 2 tickets and you show up with 3 people, I don't think they actually care. But technically, like if you want to go with the absolute terms and conditions, the tickets are for who's taking the pictures. So she went there and she was like, oh, I'm not going to get into the pictures. I only have 2 tickets, because the 2 other tickets we had were like on a separate day. So she's like, it's just my 2 kids are going to take the pictures. And they were like, that's fine. In the end, they don't even care if you get in the pictures. Like if it was me, I wouldn't even want to get in the picture. So, I would just want my kid in it unless she wanted me in it. I think if you can get at least one for one of your kids in your room, you should be able to at least get all the pictures for just them without you in it, but maybe you sneak in 1 or 2 other people as well. And be nice, right? Don't have 2 tickets and then
roll up with 8 people
and then do like
every iteration of your family.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you've got the 8 tickets for the 8 people, then knock yourself out with the 8 iterations. But, I'm just talking about for like a single family, if you can get 1 or 2, usually they're pretty good about that. And for the adult dining, I wasn't even worried if we didn't get Enchanté. They keep some back for when you get on board. And then so many people cancel and move around anyway. Worst case scenario, you go on a day that you didn't want to go.
And did you try for Paulo's Steakhouse as well?
I didn't. I actually, a brunch showed up, but my friends said, we did that last time. So we would have gone if it was all 4 of us, but they didn't really want to go. And my wife's like, I'm good. I don't need to go. You overeat at brunch anyway. So I was like, okay, fine. All right. Point taken.
Can we jump back into the staterooms then? I just want to know what you think about the Wish Treasure class staterooms and everything like that for your family. How do they work? You know what? I'm out of practice. Leave me alone. Now, obviously, you guys have a lot of space between the 2 staterooms and everything like that with the connecting doors. But are you a fan of them? I mean, I love the bathrooms on the Wish. I've been on the Treasure yet. So overall, what are your thoughts on the staterooms? They work for your family pretty well, it seems like, Joe.
I think the thing that people don't like, and which I respect and I understand, is that the Wish and the Treasure staterooms are much more utilitarian. However, from a design perspective, I actually really appreciate that. I can't remember where I said it because I've recorded like multiple podcasts about this shit, but the trash cans being kind of built into the drawer, like I like that. I can see how someone is like, that's tacky. I like the separate leather trash cans on the Magic and the Wonder and stuff like that. They're beautiful trash cans, but me, I don't care about my trash. Like I just keep kicking that thing. So I like that it's tucked in there. And then a lot of the other things that I found that I didn't even realize, my wife was like, oh, this entire wall is magnetic. Like on the older ships, only certain sections were magnetic.
Most of the other walls are magnetic too.
I don't know why. I feel like on other ships, we've like tried to like put our wall magnets up and it was only like partial. This one, like I could not find a magnetic wall.
Outside.
Everywhere. Yeah. Outside, inside.
Okay.
Oh, and then outside was really cool. The magnetic walls, people use that to like go crazy with their stateroom decorations. And so, it's just like everything's magnetic. And then the thing that I really liked, which only happens if if you have a family of 6, you're going to have to get 2 staterooms no matter what, unless you are selling concierge and get, on these newer ships, you have to get like the royal suite, get 6 in a room. So that's crazy. Chrissy would do it though. But anyway, what I really like about these staterooms is in the older ships, and this is like a silly thing, but I think it matters. In the older ships, the connecting door was like right in the middle of the stateroom. And now they're like all the way by the balcony. And so that really gives much more of a feeling of like space between the 2 rooms, which I think would actually come in handy if you're connected with someone you don't know, because I hate being in a connected room when I don't know the person next door. But at least if it's like all the way down by the balcony, like I feel like there's going to be less overall noise pollution into my room.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it by your and your wife's bed. Put it by the kid's bed. Then you don't have to worry about it, right?
The other thing is, every time I get on one of the older ships, I have to ask for a doorstop to keep the doors open between. But now it's like magnetic, so I can just, I don't have to fumble with a doorstop and stuff like that. So I thought they designed it really well. Yeah, the connecting door. There's a magnetic stop on the ceiling that it connects to. And that's much better than having to ask for a doorstop. And it makes life easier for the stateroom attendants as well, because they don't got to go like find the doorstops and all that. So these are all these little silly things, but that's why I really like the design of these rooms. Again, is it more utilitarian? Yeah, you could argue that. But I like in my stateroom, I want it to work more than I want it to be beautiful. And by the way, I do feel like they are still beautiful staterooms. The nice thing about the Treasure is not every single stateroom is princess themed. We have this adventure theme. So we had an Aladdin room and a Pocahontas room. But if your kid is still into princesses, you can get Pocahontas, Mirabelle. Are they like quite princesses? I don't know. But you can still get Pocahontas or Mirabelle if you feel like your kid wants a stateroom with a princess in it. Or you can get Aladdin, Finding Nemo, lots of other options if you don't care. Or, if you don't care, you don't care. But on the Wish, like everything is princesses. So I think the Treasure is a bit of a, it's just going to appeal to more people overall.
I agree with that.
I just want everybody listening to know that Christy and Steve are my favorite. But anyway, continue.
And you don't even make a show go past 25 minutes. You guys go crazy. And so you guys are killing me. Okay, but let's just start with, how did you guys spend your days on this 7-night cruise? So there were excursion days, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But otherwise, how did you spend? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, so first of all, Christy, as much of a hard time to give you, I really appreciate that when I'm on a cruise, I know I can reach out to you and give you my live feedback and we can chat about it in real time. So I have a lot of fun checking in with you about that. And while we were on the cruise, I was like, it feels like there is a lot more entertainment on this ship than any of the other ships. I was on the Magic last July, and I'll admit, like maybe the Wish was like that, but I was on a 3-nighter for the Wish and I was just like trying to run around, see all the different spaces as fast as possible. But on the Magic, I feel like I would do trivia and I would have a drink and like that was it. Here, for those of you who don't know, Sage and Coriander, or I can't remember which order they go, Coriander, Sage, or Sage and Coriander. I remember like the first day, I just saw these two people walking around in, I can only call them adventure costumes. And I was like, so what are these people? Like, what are these characters? Like, I had no idea. This was like the very first day, just wandering around the ship. And then I came to find out that they are two entertainers whose sole job is to put on shows in the Grand Hall, in lounges. And so they do a lot of fun stuff.
And I had heard a lot of them.
So many. I had heard your episode and you said like, oh, if you want to go to the Indiana Jones thing, definitely show up early and all that. They actually ran it 3 times on our cruise. So
that's good.
Yeah, it was good. They added time, I think, because our cruise was so busy because it was President's Week. So they did 2 on night 2 and then 1 on night 6. So this is like a choose your own adventure. They're going through the Indiana Jones stories, but it's like, it's sort of like half entertainment, half comedy routine, half audience participation, because you choose like the audience tells them what to do. I'm pretty sure they're not listening to us. They just are doing whatever they want to do. Because it's like 150 people telling them what to do. Like no one's going to choose one thing. But that was a lot of fun. I caught their Jungle Cruise thing that they do in the Grand Hall. They do a show there. That's a lot of fun. They do a lot of retelling of various stories. And so they are low-key MVPs of the entertainment crew on the ship, on the Treasure. And they are, like you said, doing things all the time.
All the time. They have an Aladdin show where they replay Aladdin as well. And that same like idea where they have props and they use the props. And the Aladdin show is for families. As you said, Jungle Cruise is for families in the Grand Hall. And then the Indiana Jones Choose Your Adventure is for adults only. Yeah,
if you're a theme parks fan, if you're a Disney fan, you're going to enjoy these things. They're really great. I happened upon, I don't know, is Coriander the male one or Sage the male one? I don't know. Who knows? But
I think
Coriander is probably the male. Yeah, well, regardless, I found one of their kind of hiding spots when they were like out of costume and stuff like that. I won't say it because that's where, I think they were zooming that they would zoom their family like every day from the same area. And so, I was like, man, this dude, he's earned his piece and earned his rest and relaxation because they do such a good thing. But besides that, there's a lot of other entertainment going on the ship. I thought There was a ton of characters. Poor Stitch met for an hour and 15 minutes, like an hour after the time ended because, they cut the line off after the 15 minutes, but they'll
Wow.
everyone in the line. So I walked by the Grand Hall. I caught the beginning of Stitch, and then I think I went to lunch or something, and I came back and I saw about an hour and change later, I saw the last family meeting with Stitch, which was pretty wild. And I think partially this was because it was a super crowded cruise, but there were so many characters just wandering around. We met 5 or 6 characters just randomly wandering around. Tiana, Aladdin, Jasmine, Minnie in her adventurer's outfit. I just ran into her. Daisy, they do a great job, but just there's always something going on the ship. And I thought the other nice thing was, I thought this is a 7-day cruise. We probably, if we did it again, everything would feel repetitive. No, there was definitely stuff I missed Aladdin. I missed a lot of the other just mini shows is what I would call them. It's not the Broadway theater shows, but just mini things that were going on. I missed a ton of that. So I feel like they really crammed a lot of entertainment onto this ship, which is going to, I could go on next week on the Western Caribbean sailing next week, and I probably could not repeat any of the entertainment stuff that I did.
So what I'm hearing you say, Joe, is in the past, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but it seemed like, kind of Disney kind of got into, you do this, you do this, you do this, so this is going on and everything else. And I remember talking to somebody who went on the first Virgin cruise line, where they were kind of wandering around the ship and something's happening over here and something's happening over there. And then you walk around. Our family's had moments where you walk around the corner, there's a character there or something like that. But what I'm hearing from you is on this ship with the Treasure, they're really going above and beyond as far as the amount of entertainment that you can find minute to minute as you're kind of, taking the ship, whether it's the grand shows that are going on in the theater to Coriander and I forgot the other name now, I apologize.
Sage.
And Sage providing, entertainment in the Grand Hall, in Sarabi or whatever, everything else. So it sounds like a completely, I don't want to say completely different, but I love the way Disney's doing this to provide whatever you want to find, it's there for you to find.
Choose your own adventure.
And I will give this caveat. This is exactly why I reached out to Christy, because I was like, this is a lot of stuff going on. And I wasn't sure because, again, it was a completely full ship, although I feel like they're sending a lot of these out completely full. Like I said, the Treasure's really popular right now, but it was a full 3,900 people on the cruise ship. It was February break, which means New York, a bunch of New Jersey schools, Michigan's off. Yeah, I met people from all these places. There were some people coming over from California because some people in California have ski weeks as well. A lot of breaks. So I was like, is all this entertainment, like you said, Steve, everything that's jam-packed in here, is it just for this week? And that's why I reached out to Christy, and she's like, no, I felt the same way when I was on that cruise.
I love this. I love hearing this.
And I do too. And the only other thing I would say is that they have to, because the public spaces are smaller on the ship, they need to eat the people in different ways. And so they have to have enough activities to fill all of the people.
That's a good point, because
for 7 nights.
Not everybody can go into Sarabi and do that thing at 8:00, which maybe on the other ships, it's like 8:00, this is going to happen. They've got to have stuff elsewhere for the people that can't fit into Sarabi at that time.
Even the theater doesn't have enough seats technically if everybody wants to go to the show. That whole idea of filling every available space, they have to, because there's that many people that want to go to the show. So good on Disney though, good on them for coming up with things and throwing characters out there.
As we're talking about the negatives, Christy, I want to say that I do feel like just the way, the negative side of, like I said, I really like how the rooms were designed for kind of efficiency and space and stuff like that. The negative side of that is I do feel like the cast members, the crew is really right on the edge of their stress. They're obviously, any crew member on any cruise ship is always working really hard. I do feel like with the Treasure and the Wish, they are pushing them just a little bit harder. And so, shout out to the cast members. They are amazing. They do an amazing job. But this was the first time where I was like, when I got back, I was like, I need to send a cast compliment to DCL Guest Services to talk about some of the crew members that I thought were really amazing. And, I'm just like, I do feel like they're pushing the limits a little bit of their crew. Shout out to the crew because they do awesome. Definitely be nice to them.
Oh, 100%. In the past, I would say 2 years, I have felt that people were slightly overextended. Now, it doesn't mean they weren't personal and amazing and just incredible still, but also that you can sense And or, some of the dining time waits and things that they're overextended.
Yeah, my poor stateroom attendant only had one early dining, which is funny because usually people like early dining. So she was like, one night she was like, "Oh, what time do you think your kids are coming back?" And I was like, "Oh, we are the slowest eaters in the entire world, and we're like usually the last ones in there. We do second dining. I'm sorry, 8:15 dining or whatever they call it now." And so I was like, "Oh yeah, do our rooms last, please. Do our rooms last." So I felt bad for her. She was definitely stressed out. That's, I mean, in one sense, that's bad luck, but if you have 13 cabins, there's always going to be the chance, law of averages, that the majority of your cabins are early or late dining, and that's a lot of stress on the stateroom hosts.
Yep. But they're so good. The crew on this ship, they're so good. I love them.
They're proud to be there too. They're proud to be there too. Yeah, you can feel it.
How about we do this? Why don't we just do like some just quick one-offs?
Like
I got to go in 25 minutes, so don't worry. We'll have to end in 25 minutes max.
Okay. So let's do a couple of quick one-offs let's just jump into food real quick. Does that sound cool?
Yeah.
All right. So 1923, we know 1923, we know Marvel, Plaza de Coco. What are your thoughts on that?
It's amazing. I think it jumped 1923 as my favorite restaurant on the new class of ships. And actually, it probably is my favorite restaurant on all the ships. I've been on all classes of ships by now. Number one, tortilla chips instead of bread, A+. 10 out of 10, no notes. So tortilla chips and salsa. My preferences don't have to be your preferences, Christy. One thing I thought you would like to know, Christy, I don't know if this was a one-off or not, but I have a client on the Eastern Caribbean right now, and Plaza de Coco was the dining restaurant for Embarkation Day, which if I had known that, maybe I would have shown up a little bit earlier. So she sent me a picture from there, and I was like, what? Wasn't 1923? So I was pretty surprised by that. But Plaza de Coco is great. They took Arendelle, which I enjoyed. I think Frozen music has definitely plateaued in its interest level for most of us who are not Frozen obsessed still. And so I really loved the music shows. It was great. The mariachis were awesome. They sounded so good. And I think Plaza de Coco, I just like that ambiance better. Lanterns running across the ceiling. It's beautiful. One thing that may be of interest to listeners, so I can possibly provide one useful thing, is we spent a lot more time, like we went to 1923 for lunch and breakfast, much more than we have on, usually we're like Cabanas or Marceline Market all the time. We went to 1923 like 4 times over the course of the 7-night cruise. I think 1 breakfast and 3 lunches. And we really enjoyed going there. It wasn't too crowded. The food was good. And, the other thing is, especially on a winter cruise, I love seeing the dining rooms during the day, especially like 1923, where there's like more natural light coming in. I know it's like in the middle, but still, but like they have portholes to the outside. Enchante, I felt the same thing. We went there for dinner. I wish we had gone there for lunch. I was told it's like the same menu and it's the same cost anyway. I think people were booking lunch because they thought it was going to be cheaper, but at least our server for Enchante said it was going to be the same price. And so really enjoyed doing those sit down meals, which I think my kids were like, we're getting like, there's too much hustle and bustle at Marceline and we're getting sick of eating the same thing. So it was good to have a change of pace, especially on a 7-night cruise.
And what about duck food? Did you get up there to eat it all?
Oh yeah, of course. Didn't get to Donald's, until the very last day. Finally, the lines died down on the last day. I was full and I was like, I'm going to go eat more anyway, because I'm on a cruise. I had already eaten, but I was like, I'm going to go. But had a lot of the barbecue. I really love the pizza on the new ships. And so I ate a ton of the pizza. Another thing that's good, my daughter has a dairy allergy. So we were able to get vegan cheese pizza for her up there. So that worked well. The deck food is really good on. So, so sometimes we would skip Marceline and eat on the deck instead. And then there's just food there all the time. And that was awesome. I really love the deck food on the new ship. New ships, plural. I feel like it's better than the older ones, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, agreed 100%.
Okay, so you get your kids tucked away in the kids clubs, which we'll touch on real quick here in a second. But you and your wife get a chance, which is the reason why you go on a DCL cruise, so that you can reconnect with your significant other and whatnot. Haunted Mansion Bar, any other places around the ship you enjoyed that are new that people might want to go to? Your thoughts?
Like I said, it is a ship for Disney fans. Haunted Mansion Parlor, Skipper Society, which is the Jungle Cruise themed lounge, Periscope Pub, which is the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea lounge. I don't usually go to lounges, and I don't actually drink on cruises that much. The best thing I can say about these lounges is that they made me want to drink alcohol because they made me want to spend more time there. Like Hyperspace Lounge, I got a non-alcoholic drink with my kids, But, we checked it out. I mean, to be fair, we had just done the Galactic Star Cruiser, which was like way better than that. RIP, turned it into a parking lot. But the lounges were like so cool that we wanted to spend more time there. So I would get a drink and we would like relax there, which is not something we normally do on cruises. Love the theming. Don't want to spoil like anything about the Haunted Mansion parlor, but you definitely need to spend at least, I would say, 20 to 30 minutes there to get the full experience. The first time I went in there it wasn't actually open. And so I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I was just like walking around and there was like no one in there. But I had no idea how cool it was going to get when it was actually open. Really love all of those lounges. They were a lot of fun to be in. And I went on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea when I was a kid in Walt Disney World. And so, I'm a big fan of the Periscope pub as well, which low key, you should know that they have mini churros that you can get after 5 p.m. So if you want your churro fix.
For a small fee, but it's really not too much. Are they fresh churros? Like, do they feel like they're freshly made or they feel like they were made last week?
They were fine. Yeah. I mean, churros are churros. My kids will eat whatever. I can't remember what it was. It was some sort of sweet dessert at Skipper Society that looked really good on the menu. And I remember not thinking it was that great. I can't remember what it was. Something Apple related, but it was the only like dessert thing on the menu. And we were excited by it. It was a waffle. It was an apple fritter waffle or something. And I was like, oh, super excited. It was fine, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. That one felt like it was a couple days old.
All right, let's turn to the kids clubs. You've got Edge, Lab, and Club. I think your kids go to the kids club, if I remember right, Joe. What were their thoughts on the treasure?
My kids have a lot of thoughts on the kids club. Their number one thought is they no longer have Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Wii, so they can't play Mario Kart. So they're upset about that. Very upset. My son is very upset about that. He made a very fair point though, that all the video games are like iPad games now, which means you can't play with other kids really. You're just playing by yourself. Maybe another kid is looking over your shoulder. Whereas when you had Mario Kart and stuff like that, you were playing with other kids. Obviously, there's going to be an issue when like kids are waiting and stuff like that. But you assume that the counselors are going to take care of that. And so I thought he made a good point about that. There is Nintendo Switch in Edge. Finally, after like 4 or 5 days, my kids are like more introverted, which I've said before. Finally, after 4 or 5 days, my 12-year-old made a couple friends that, Edge, for tweens, Edge is more like a meeting place. And then they just go off and do whatever on the ship. And finally, she started staying out a little bit later, went out with her friends. What she really loved actually was they did take over the Oceaneer lab at like 11:30 p.m. And she loved that because she's like, oh, they have so much cool stuff. So, grass is always greener because my son's complaining about the kids club not being as good as on the Dream. The Dream is his favorite. He's complaining about that. But then my daughter's like, what? You're so lucky you get to do that. We only got to be there for 45 minutes when they took over. But they had a lot of fun. And it was good to finally see her, when we were on the Wish and she was in Edge, it was like a 3-night cruise. So she didn't really have time to like make friends with anyone. This time she was able to make friends. And I thought that was really great for her. So, they're fine with the kids club. They never were like huge kids club people to begin with. I went in there and I thought it was cool, but what do I know? I'm an old man.
I think the longer cruises are better especially for the older kids, because they really find a time to connect. And that's when I've seen our kids really have some of the most amazing cruises is longer cruises. 3 nights is tough.
Gaggles with tweens and teens on the stairwells, though. It's like,
all right. How about the pool decks? Any thoughts on the pool decks, Aquamouse? Any tips there for families? That I know you've got a lot of clients. They're sailing as well too. So any tips on the pool decks?
I love the family pools on the Treasure and the Wish. I feel like there's a lot more. There's a lot less of that. Christy, I reference you every single time. Kid soup is what it used to be. Mm-hmm. It still kind of is, but now sometimes it's more of a broth and not like a bisque in the kids soup. And, there are definitely quieter times where there's a lot less people. During the middle of the day, it's still kids soup all over the family pools, but with so many options later in the day, even like late afternoon, like after 4 o'clock, it becomes much more manageable. I think a minor miss is that there's only 2 pools that are like deep. So for the younger kids, it's good because, they're not going to drown in anything. But for like the older kids who want to like tread water or like, play around and swim a little bit, there's only 2 of those options. But still, that's more than the older ships. I think miss for adults is there's just way less, nothing tops the classic ships, the Wonder and the Magic. Their adult space is the best adult space, I think. You got that big pool in the middle. You got multiple hot tubs. There's plenty of seating. Whereas on the Treasure and the Wish, it's like you have I think it's starboard side.
No, the
starboard side has the hot tub. Yeah. And it's just like a bunch of chairs on the starboard side. And
no
then you have
shade.
The aft. No shade. Then you have the aft. Beautiful infinity pool for the adults. I will say, like, that's probably the best solo That's the best solo pool for adults on any of the ships, but
Sure.
it's tiny. There's not a lot of room. There is like a second floor for seating, but luckily we didn't go to the adult areas that much during the day. We would go like in the afternoon when it like cleared out and it was quieter. I can see how that's a miss for people. Like that's going to send more adults to the spa, and which, I don't love that.
And you can hear the Aquamouse from both sides of the adult deck.
Yeah, it's just not like a quiet oasis like the older ships.
And you would get live music on the older ships. I love that when you could go and like find a chair and listen to them playing. Yes, that is a miss as well. But yeah, so many other good things.
Yeah, and it doesn't affect us that much, so it's not too bad. Oh, Aquamouse, I think on a 7-night cruise, it's just going to be less crowded in general. But nightly, there's 3 shows on the Aquamouse, which is great, instead of 2, which is on the Wish. And nightly, I would go at 6:30. It would be a walk on, but they wouldn't even make us get off. Did I freeze? Yes, but I rode that thing like a dozen times using this method. And on the morning of Castaway Key, also nobody there. So we did that too.
Right. Yeah. What did you guys do at Castaway? What's your Castaway plan?
It was a little cold. So we went to Pelican Point. That's where we like to go. We mixed things up. That was the one day we didn't hang out with our friends. They were all the way over by where the boat rentals are. So we were like on completely opposite sides of the beach. It was pretty cold. It was like 70. So only 2 of our kids got in the water. We did go for bike rides. Finally, all 3 of our kids can bike. Our youngest was a little bit late to learn, for our liking at least. And so we did that. That was a lot of fun. We had a pretty relaxing day there. Honestly, I probably could have stayed. We're spoiled for having been to Castaway Key like 5 times. So could have stayed on the ship to play. I mean, we did stay on the ship to play. We did the Aquamouse in the morning and then didn't get out to Castaway Key until lunchtime. It was a pretty chill day at Castaway Key overall. After all that I talked to you about, Christy, about like checking for cabanas a million times, ultimately I was glad we didn't get one because it was not warm enough that day to truly enjoy it.
You mentioned your excursions, but let's talk about them a little bit because I feel like it's very helpful for other people to hear. We haven't talked about that dolphin excursion. So you went St. Thomas, you did the dolphin excursion, correct?
Yeah, that's our second port. I said it in reverse order when we were speaking before, but yeah.
They used to take you to Tortola to do the dolphins. Is the experience you did in Tortola, even though you start from St. Thomas?
No, it's in Coral World, so it's on the same island. So we took a open air taxi. It was about a half-hour ride over there. It started pretty late. It was like 10:15 meeting in Worlds of Marvel for the excursion, which was perfect for us. We're not early risers. And so we took it out to Coral World. Coral World is a little bit sad, for lack of a better term, overall. I think people go just to like hang out with dolphins or sea lions. There's a scuba diving expedition as well, or maybe it's snuba. I'm not sure. But we saw people like getting dressed for that. I think they were actually from Norwegian, but it was a lot of fun. It was really cool to be with the dolphins. Leslie made me feel a little bit bad about, is it exploitative? I don't know. Trying not to think about it too much, but definitely was an experience that I was glad that we did. Our guide, or like the woman who was in the water with us, was really knowledgeable and shared a lot of fun facts with my kids who were really into like the dolphin facts and stuff like that. So definitely glad we did that once. Probably won't do that again, but also got some amazing pictures from that. So I would, the one thing I would say is I would probably not recommend. Our friends did just like the Coral World excursion, like just for Coral World. I would not recommend doing that. They were like, we probably wouldn't do that again next time.
And then so you went to the beach for Tortola.
Yes, I copied exactly what you did, Christy. Thank you. It worked out great.
In Tortola, I didn't get off the ship. So go on.
It must have been another guest on your podcast because yours was the only, I told you, Christy, that I was majorly trying to avoid spoilers. Yeah. So yours was the only one that like when I felt like weak, I listened to it. So I heard, if it wasn't you who went to Jos Van Dyke, it was someone that you did a trip report with, because yours was like literally the only. Now I can listen to all the treasure content I want, but up until we went, I hadn't listened to anybody. So yeah, Jos Van Dyke, you take a boat over there, and then once you get over there, you have to take a short open air taxi like over the island to the other side. Jos Van Dyke Beach is great. We were there for 3 hours. Wish it could have been longer. I wonder if you did like a private transfer, but then you wouldn't get the beach chairs. But maybe that would be better overall. That's something I would explore if I went back. Or people rent boats or like do charter boats that go all the way straight to Jos Van Dyke, and then you just jump off and swim over. to the beach, I think that would be fun. But it was a great beach. We had a lot of fun. Lunch was fine. On the boat ride back, it turned into like a party. They were giving us rum and punch. I don't know if they were supposed to. I think they told us not to tell Disney, but I think they said that as a joke. But they were giving us
probably okay.
Yeah, they were giving us stuff to drink, and then they were like blasting just like every song that you can think of Americans singing along to. They were blasting. So Country Roads, Sweet Caroline, I don't know, name some of these other songs that people love to sing along to. That was the whole boat ride home, which was actually pretty nice because it made it go by pretty quickly. And it was funny watching everyone sing these songs. Oh, American Pie. These little kids knew all the words to American Pie. They were like 7 and 9. I was like,
oh my God, that's hilarious.
I was like, what? How are you kids so knowledgeable?
I think it was in a movie. I think there's like a movie out that was just recently in.
Yeah, like Sing 7 or something.
I think it's like something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, no, we did the same thing. That was awesome, and the boat leaves right next to the ship and everything like that. So it's an easy walk off the ship and back onto the ship, and plenty of stuff to do downtown afterwards if you want to.
Yeah,
perfect.
It was great. All right, yeah.
We didn't talk about Enchante. What did you think of your dining experience? Adult only dining. It's super extra. Just for listeners that might not know, it's definitely an elevated Michelin star level type restaurant experience. What did you think? What meal plan did you pick?
So I got the full 7-course meal. My wife got the smaller 5-course meal. Mine was $205, I think. Hers was $135.
That sounds right.
Hers was enough food for her. It probably would have been enough food for me, honestly. We're running low on time. Here's my short version of Enchante. Like, you could go to Enchante twice or go to Victoria Albert's once. I would go to Enchante every single time. Enchante is better, in my opinion, first of all, and it's also cheaper. I mean, you also paid for this cruise on the Disney Treasure, but if you're going to Victoria and Albert's, you probably spend a lot of money at Walt Disney World as well. I thought the presentation was excellent. The food was really good. They had all these, the reason why I think the 5-course meal is fine for most people is because they all had all these like mini dishes that they would just like shove at you. I said that made it sound derogatory, but it's not. They would shove it at you, parentheses, complimentary. Like throughout the meal, the petit fours, which is like the dessert, there was 7 mini desserts before you ate your one main dessert. There's a cheese plate as well. So they just went all out. If you enjoy fine dining, if you enjoy tasting menus, I really liked Enchante. I put it above my experience at Remy. We really loved Remy as well when we were on the Dream. And just even the ambiance, like Remy is like a darker restaurant, I think purposely so. Enchante is very bright, even at nighttime. Mm-hmm. And I think that works really well. So just a really happy time, our meal there. And that was like the one, well, I was going to say our one splurge, but no, the whole cruise was a splurge. But that was the one splurge for just my wife and myself. And we're really glad that we did that.
It's such a good meal. Did you get the cheese board that you could pick? Like, did they have the cheese cart and let you come up and pick? Or did they put your cheese and just bring it to you and say, these are your cheeses?
She brought the cheese cart over. At that point, we had established a pretty solid food relationship with our server, for lack of a better term. Just sounds so pretentious, but that's just the way it was. And so, at that point, she's like, I can go through all these cheeses, or you can tell me what type of cheese you like. And then, you can trust me. My wife likes the stinkier cheeses. I like the harder cheeses. So usually between the two of us on any like cheese spread, we end up getting 80% of the cheeses anyway. So that's exactly what we did. So she got 4 mostly soft cheeses and I got 4 hard cheeses plus a brie. Neither of us like brie, though. We should have said that neither of us like brie, and then we could have gone out of that. So she gave us 4 cheeses each. I am almost positive that if we had asked for a little bit of every single cheese, she would have given it to us. That would not have been smart from a stomach space sense. This is before we even knew that we were going to get like a million desserts. So, I was happy. Don't be greedy with the cheese. I mean, you can be, and they'll probably be fine with it. There's only so much food that one can eat. We were there for 2 hours and change. Like we made it in plenty of time for Pirate Night, and we had like a 7 o'clock seating. So, we could have made it to the 9:30 show, like the pirate show or whatever. So
Pirate Night. So you guys went with the kids?
No,
did you all love?
They're done with that.
So you could have made it to Pirate Night.
We could have made it. Didn't. We were on the starboard side. We watched fireworks from our veranda.
Okay. And then Moana and Beauty and the Beast. Did you go to Beauty and the Beast?
Did not, because we've been on the Dream twice.
Was your Moana a night 6?
Moana was on night 6. They switched it up from your cruise because your Moana was on night 7, I remember. Oh, Moana on night 6 is perfect.
Yeah.
Because you're not rushing to pack.
Right.
Like if Moana was on night 7, we would have gone. If Beauty and Beast was on night 6, we might have gone to that too. You know what I'm saying? Because but night 7 was like, I've seen Beauty and the Beast. I would go if you haven't seen it for sure. It's one of their best shows. But we'd seen it and, we want to pack fast enough so we can enjoy other things. And so Moana on night 6 was perfect. Still working out a few kinks, like the spotlight was a little bit off on a couple things. They'll figure it out. We were only their 8th cruise total.
So I do have one thing I have to point out is Joe is, as we're seeing Joe, he's got a trivia medal, I'm a winner behind him. So I want to give a huge shout out to you and your family for being able to do that because that's hard to do these days. It seems like every trivia you go to, somebody's getting 21 or 22.
Yeah, you run several times, didn't you?
I mean, we went to 9 trivias on the Magic and struck out. The closest we got was to tiebreakers. This time, the odds were in our favor, I guess. Did not study, but my daughter and I went to Star Wars. We got 20 out of 20, won in tiebreakers. And then I went right from there to Marvel. And then my friend and I got 20 out of 20. Actually, he got 19 out of 20. I got 1 out of 20. But that 1 out of 20 mattered because we went to tiebreakers again. And then he somehow knew that I can't remember which character. Maybe it was like Scarlet Witch or something like that. He knew that she came out in the 1960s. So we won that tiebreaker. It was, we were on a good run. Steve, you said, you're on such a good run. You should go play bingo. Well, Steve, I'm out $120 thanks to your advice.
Never take advice from a pilot. Never take financial advice. Never take stock tips. And never take bingo tips.
Actually, we split it, so I'm only out $60. But my friend and I, the house always wins, right? The house always wins. But I got all these free medals behind me.
Before you go, just put a bow on it. People sailing on the Treasure, what are your hot tips, takes? What should people think about as they sail on the beautiful Disney Treasure?
I mean, my first take is that you should go. If you're a DCL fan, then, and let's say you're a DCL fan who didn't love The Wish, go on the Treasure. I feel like I really enjoyed The Wish. It was like an A- for me. To me, they took The Wish and made everything just a little bit better. And so, I really loved the Treasure. I loved every minute that we had on it. I just had so much fun on the cruise. So my first advice would be to go. And then my second piece of advice would be, I think that because there was so much entertainment, we overdid it a little bit. Sometimes we just forgot to just sit on the veranda and just enjoy ourselves. The 2 verandas that we paid for, when you're on a cruise, you don't have to treat it like Walt Disney World. You can and you should relax. And sometimes I wish we had done a little bit more of that. Not enough to regret anything that we ended up doing because we had an amazing time, but we definitely could have relaxed a bit more and wouldn't have been any of the worse off for it.
Yeah, no, that is good advice. I think that's a good place to stop. What's next for you and your family in terms of cruising? Do you have anything booked?
I have multiple things booked. Multiple things are probably going to get canceled. The one that I have my eye on that I really hope that we don't cancel is Norwegian Fjords next August 2026. I talked to Steve about it when I was trying to pick which one to do. I really hope that we get to do that one. And it's going to come down to summer scheduling and things like that. But that's the one that I really want to do.
It's a great cruise. The scenery is beautiful. You'll love it if your family gets to go. I hope you do.
And Joe, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find my podcast, Disney Deciphered. It's not as unhinged as this. Sorry again, Lake. And thank you, Christy, for indulging me.
It's a very tight ship over there.
I blame Steve. Okay.
You can always blame me.
But yeah, Disney Deciphered is our podcast. We're audio podcast and also on YouTube sometimes when I have the time to edit it. And you can also find me at As a Joe Flies all over social media. I'm a travel agent as well, but if you're listening to this podcast, you should book with Christy.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. It has been a pleasure to talk to you. Steve, where can we find you?
Where can you find me?
You have an Instagram page.
Yeah, DCL Adventures. That's it. On Instagram. That's pretty much
DCL_Adventures, I believe.
DCL_Adventures. Always following you, Joe, and everybody else and all you guys' travels because I'm living vicariously these days. So I love it. I loved being part of this. Thank you so much, Christy, for letting me be part of this. And Joe, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. So much fun to hang out with you tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. I know this was a little silly, but longtime listeners of the DCL podcast probably know that every time the 3 of us get together, it's just a little bit silly. So I appreciate if you're still listening, I appreciate you indulging us. And again, thank you, Lake.
Yeah, thanks, Lake, for editing. If you want to get more of Joe's abuse and mean comments towards me, at least, you can visit us in the Patreon at DCL Podcast or patreon.com/DCL Podcast. You can find the podcast on the internet at DCL Podcast. And you can find Lake at mouse.gen on Instagram and on YouTube. And then I am Pack Your Pixie Dust all over the internet. If you are interested in help booking vacation, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you have a good night. See you next time on the DCL Podcast.
Bye. Thanks.
Goodbye, everybody.
Well, that's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank Joe for coming on and sharing his and his family's experience on the Disney Treasure. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We would also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week. Of course, you too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.